Hey everyone. So, for the last couple of weeks, I had been toying with the idea about going live with something that was going on in my life and just kind of giving my thoughts about it because that's just what I do. Um, and given recent turns of events and things that I've noticed, along with watching, like binge watching 6 episodes of 13 Reasons Why, I thought this was a great time to just talk about this. So, I'm a mother of three and a stepmom to two. I am a teen mom who had my first child uh, at 18. I actually found out on my 18th birthday that I was pregnant. I done it, alone for many parts of parenthood. And so many times I thought I was doing it all wrong. And a lot had to do with the fact that I was a young mom and society looks down on young moms. I also have zero relationship with the people who raised me and adopted me at 9 months old. They told me I was selfish, that I was a bad mom. They critiqued all these things. So I had all these voices in my head. And I was adopted and had no relationship with my adopted parents and really felt disconnected to anybody and didn't know how to love or receive love. And so having my own child, especially at a young age, was caused a lot of fear. And as she got older, the biggest fear that I had was that she was going to turn out like me. And I lived my life as a young mom doing and making some of the same mistakes that the people who'd raised me had done to me growing up. And it was this cycle that it was all I knew to do. And the older she got, the more paranoid I became, and I tried to control everything in hopes that she wouldn't turn out like me. That was my biggest fear. I didn't want her to be like me. And at the same time, I didn't want to be like that woman who raised me. And I spent my whole entire life up until recently making every decision that I had was based on not becoming that person, my mother. And I had to really take a step back over the last year or so and realize that I'm not the person who raised me. I'm not living in the time that I was raised, and that my daughter is not being raised and has never been raised the way I was, and that her and I's relationship is different, and that she lives in a totally different generation, and that she's a wonderful kid. And I had to learn to start taking the credit that she was a wonderful kid because of what I had done. And I had to understand that I was not a selfish parent. Have I made mistakes? God, yes. And I don't know any parent who hasn't. And I don't know any parent who doesn't have a fear of screwing up their kids. But I had to let go of that fear that she was going to turn out like me because she's not me. And I can't punish her for the mistakes that I made. And I couldn't continue punishing myself for the mistakes I made any more than I could keep blaming the people who raised me for who I became or the mistakes that I made. And I had to break that cycle. I was a child that was suicidal. I was a child that was sexually, mentally, and emotionally and physically abused from a very young age. I was a child that did not have the ability to communicate with anybody or any safe space to communicate it or realize what was going on or have a plan. And it led to a lot of issues in my adulthood. Really bad choice in peer groups, bad choice in men, bad choices in self-destructive behaviors that I did as a way to cope, a way to escape the feelings that I had of loneliness, of not being worthy, not being loved, being a loser, being rejected, all the things that are literally universal. It wasn't just me. I thought it was just me. But when you're just dealing with the pain yourself and you have nobody to talk to, another perspective, it's so easy to get so self-absorbed and feel like you're the only one that's dealing with it. And so that's why I talk about all of these things so openly and so candidly, because I want you guys all to know that you're not alone, that other people are feeling what you're feeling, and that I'm here to say that there's a way to stop that suffering. There's a way to break this cycle. There's a way to find the right people that will help you get out of whatever state you're in that is causing pain and suffering. So for me as a child, I felt suicidal. And there's so much that goes around suicide. I've heard so many things. I've said things that were inaccurate. And I think it's so misunderstood. And I will explain to you from somebody who felt suicidal as a child up until 2015. I am very proud to say that I have not had a suicidal thought or tendency since the end of 2015. And that is big when I spent 30 years of my life always wanting to die, never wanting to live long, always thinking that that was my option. And people say it's selfish. And most of the time, people, when they say that, they are saying that from the standpoint that they've seen families, or they are a family that has been affected by suicide, and they're left without any answers, and they're left with the pain, and they don't know how to deal with it. But I will tell you, from somebody who's felt that way, that suicide is not a cry for attention. Suicide is not a way to hurt people. Suicide is not selfish. Suicide is for people who feel so out of control with their life and so lost and so jacked up mentally, and they feel like they have nobody to turn to. They feel like they have nobody that understands, and that their only route to escape the pain that they can possibly think of at the moment is to not be here on earth. And it's to make other people's life better as well. That if you can't figure out how to make your life better, and you have people that love you, the last thing you want to do is be a burden on them. And I know if you surveyed any person out there, they would say, but we love you. We love you no matter what. You were never a burden. We would have done anything we can to help you. But in that state, that person didn't feel that. And they wanted to just end their pain and not be a burden on anybody else. So suicide is something that's really something that I don't take lightly, because I had a friend that I went to school with that took his life in our senior year. There were some signs that happened right before that shook the community up. And then I don't know what happened in their home. I don't know what happened after that. But I know myself as a peer, as a fellow student, I thought, man, what went on? Like, that's crazy, you know? And then, you know, things died down. And then I think I myself was like, oh, everything's fine. And then I witnessed something that happened the day that he took his life. And it was just normal high school stuff, normal teenage stuff, normal teenage dating stuff. And then the night he took his life and it hit our community was absolutely devastating. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about him, that I don't think about his family, that I wish that I could have been open about how I felt and been a friend. And so I share this because it's real life. It was real life then in the 90s, and it's real life now. And I want to share my story, and people have bashed me for being so open about these things, that they say these are things you don't talk about. And, you know, in some people's blueprint of their world and the way they were raised, it was something you don't talk about. But I feel that it needs to be talked about. And whether you agree or not, it doesn't matter. I'm going to talk about it because it's important, because it's what makes people feel uncomfortable. Death is uncomfortable. Suicide is uncomfortable. Grief is uncomfortable. Sharing emotions is just uncomfortable to people. Being vulnerable is uncomfortable. Talking about problems is uncomfortable, because most people can't fix their own problems. They don't want to hear your problems, or if they do want to hear other people's problems, because they're usually avoiding their own. And I know that because I was on both sides. But I feel it needs to be addressed that nobody is responsible for anybody's death. But there's so many people who feel responsible afterwards, or left with this hole and this, you know, pain of what went on. And I feel that if more survivors, if more people who are self-aware and self-regulated on the subject open up and start talking about it, and break that stigma and make people feel uncomfortable so that they have to hear the truth, then maybe we can make a change. Because I do believe that I can make a change. People say all the time, you can't change the world, you can't change people, they're all the same. You know what? If you tell yourself that way, then you're never going to do anything to grow. You're never going to do anything to contribute other than adding towards that mindset. So I'm here, even if I'm the only one standing up saying this, I'm here to say that I'm going to break that cycle. For whoever's watching, whoever's listening, whoever runs across this. And there's going to be people who say that I'm full of crap, and it will anger them, and that's fine. They're not in that space to understand. But I know that I will reach at least one person that understands. So what I want to talk about is parenting, and how this all ties into suicide and mental health, awareness and bullying that I said I was going to talk about. So this is somewhat personal, but my child liked a boy, and she came to me and told me, and I love that I've broken that cycle, that I'm the parent that my children can come talk to me about and I can listen. And I'm glad that I'm that person that can listen now and not freak out and assume they're going to be like me. And I'm glad I'm that person that can listen and give advice without getting involved and running their life and taking over. But she told me she liked a boy. And so we talked about it. And, I asked her questions. And it turns out that I found out who the boy is. And I know the mom. I'm friends with the mom. I love the mom. I love their lifestyle. I love their values. And so I was like, good job, kid. You picked a kid who has great family values. And I knew that helped me understand the type of boy that my child was interested in. And we talked about it. I said, what is going on? What are you asking? You say you like the boy. Obviously, you can't help who you like. What is this, going to lead up to? And she's like, I don't know. She was like, they talk. And I was like, okay. I was honest. I'm like, you can talk. You can Snapchat. I was like, but the rules are the same. I need to see your phone. There are no, inappropriate things that you're talking about. There's no, dick pics. There's no nudies. And I say this because of the fact that I didn't think that child would do it. And I didn't think my child would do it, but I hear it all the time. And then I told my child that if you ever get that from this boy you like or anybody moving forward, that's ending and that needs to stop. And I will be the one to contact that parent. And that's the great thing about living in a small town. And I was like, and it's not to shame that child, but I will do that because it needs to be ended. Somebody needs to talk about it. I see it all the time. Oh, my kid got this and this and this, and I'm just appalled at kids today. They're all the same. And then that's where it ends. And I'm like, I'm going to be the woman and the mom that has the balls to stand up and do what's right, because doing what's right never is wrong. And you see it on the news now that there is like this new rule for the Marines that they can't circulate pictures of, naked chicks that they took pictures of. The fact that you even have to put a rule out there for the Marine Corps or anybody has to is just the exact point of why this needs to be something that's really important. Because I don't think any grown man should have to be reminded or have a rule put out that you don't take pictures of women, whether they have given consent or not, and then put it in a Facebook page or send it out to your friends. That's not cool. It's not cool to have locker room talk. Like, guys will talk, but when it becomes demeaning to people and then it becomes normal, there's a problem. And I, as a woman, already felt this small for a lot of my life, and I felt not good enough, and I got into relationships with people like that. And I think more women need to stand up and say that's not right, don't accept that, and press charges and call them on their shit. And so these are the things I told my daughter. I'm like, some people will say, why do you talk to your kids that way? Because it's real life. I am not going to sugarcoat it, because this is the real life. I can't protect them and then have them send out into the world and learn this on their own and get burned, get hurt, have their whole model of the world, change from what I had created for them. They need to know this. They need to know where their boundaries are. They need to have self-respect for themselves. They need to know, how to react when these things happen. And so, this went on and and the mother and I talked, and we're like, our kids like one another, and we both said we're not getting involved, but we wanted to know what was going on, to watch what the kids were going on, and this was so new to both of us. And so, that was it. We just talked once, and, I was like, these are my rules about dating. And we kind of realized, like, what is dating at this age? I wasn't allowed to date, and that mom didn't date at that age, so we didn't really know. And it's basically like, you just say you're going out, I guess, and you sometimes go to the movies with your friends. Emily went to the movies with a bunch of friends with this boy once. They just Snapchatted. They talked, after school for like 5 minutes. That's what dating is. So I had to ask what that was. And, the first thing Emily asked me was, when was Haley allowed to date? And I said, Haley, I told her no, she couldn't date. And then whenever she decided to date, or it was an age where I would have thought it was fine. She didn't really care. She's had guys that she's talked to. She's went to prom with them, I'm like, I just kind of feel like I'm not going to set an age for everybody because everybody's at different maturity levels. They have different peers, groups of friends. So I was like, I'm not going to give you an age. And I said, I will allow this. I will see how it goes. And, figure out what it, where it's seating and how you're handling it. I said, but I can't say that, oh, when Haley turned 13, she could date. And so, oh, you're 13, you get a date. I'm like, it's everything is different. And that's the one thing that's helped me through Beachbody and personal development is learning that everybody's different. And not just adults, but kids. It starts with kids. Everybody has different views, values, passions, ways of thinking, sensitivity. So I'm having to curtail everything, and I don't have a one size fits all parenting for all of my kids and my stepchildren. I have things that are just like deal breakers that you're gonna, there's going to be consequences. But we watched this, and the one thing is, a couple of weeks ago, he formally asked her out. He put time in to do this little candy and this note, formally asking her out like a gentleman. And I never had anybody do that. And I thought, this is amazing. He obviously comes from a great family. He took the time to put the time and energy to make her feel special and do it the right way. And, I encouraged her. I'm like, you thank him. You do something special back for him, because it's not a man's job to always do stuff for you. And you always be thankful. And so, things were great. And she decided to break it off. And she told me that, she thinks she's going to break up with him. And then I was like, why? And I'm asking questions. And, I said, was there anything that he did? And she said, no, there was not. She was like, I just, get tired of people for a while. And, I'm 13. I don't want to date. And I'm like, okay, that's perfect. And I am not blasting my child, but I said, when are you going to tell him? And she had made the decision that she was going to tell him on Saturday. And it just happens that we're leaving on Saturday. We're going out of the country for a week, and she will have no self-service. And so I immediately said, why are you doing this? She's like, I don't want to do it at school. People are going to get involved. I don't want to deal with the drama. And I said, listen, his mom told him to be respectful to you. And he's been nothing but respectful. You don't have to date him. You don't have to like him, but you will treat him with respect. Respect goes both ways. I see the hypocrisy all the time, and a man's supposed to do this for a woman, but a woman can do the opposite. I don't believe that. And I was like, usually the respect. I'm like, because if you liked a boy and you didn't think anything was wrong, and then you get a text from him, and then he leaves, and you don't hear from him for 5, 6, 7 days, what is he going to think? How is he going to feel? I would be upset for you. Would I go yell at that boy? No, I'm not the parent to get involved, but I would be sad for you. And I was like, you have to do the right thing. He's a human being, and he treated you with respect. You were going to do that. And we went back and forth, and I was like, no, just because it's awkward for you, just because you don't want to deal with the drama with the kids, I'm like, then that tells me you're not old enough to date. You're not punished, but I'm telling you, you're not old enough to date. But you are going to do this the right way. You're going to do this now, and you're going to do it with where he has dignity and he feels respected. He may not like what you have to say. He may be hurt, but you do the right thing now. And she, she didn't like it. She didn't do it. But I was like, no, this is what I'm telling you you're going to do. And she did it. She did it. She called him, let him know he was sad, but he was understanding it, and they're fine. And that's not the problem. Fast forward. She goes to school yesterday. I pick her up. Like, how did it go? And she was like, he was fine. Everything was fine. But kid after kid after kid after kid kept coming up to her and him, asking him questions. Why did you break up with him? Why did you do this? Blah, blah. You broke his heart. He's crying. Do you feel better? People were making her feel bad. She went into a classroom where kids wrote his name and her name and a heart and crossed through it. And then they were going up to this boy and saying, oh, are you going to cry? Are you going to cry? Are you going to cry? Are you going to kill yourself? And I was just like, unbelievable that these children at 12, 13, 14, however old they are in the 7th grade are doing. And I'm like, these are learned behaviors. And I can say that because I was one of those people. And that, to backtrack, in 2013, I attended my very first personal development seminar. And Danny Johnson was the person I went to listen to. And she said something that resonated with me immediately and has stuck with me. And I quote all the time, Hernie, people hurt people. Hurting people hurt people. You don't see happy, fulfilled, satisfied people going around tearing people down. When you have people who are unfulfilled, hurt, withholding their, emotions, and they don't know how to process it when they're angry and it's been built up and stacked up and stacked up for years, you have these people who are waiting to explode. And you have these people who run by their emotions and they go out and hurt people because they're hurt. And it's just years and years and years and layers of hurt. And you see this. We are in the middle of some crazy shit politically, world, globally right now. And for the last year and a half, and I mean, hell, bring on football playoff. You'll see it too. You see the hatred spew out from people that is just ridiculous. And it's not about the actual issue. It's just this hatred that is just, it's their outlet to spew it. I caught a very small portion of a live feed from a Facebook page. I don't even know what it was. It was like Erie reporter that was on scene when that infamous Facebook, video killer was caught in Erie. And she was the first one seen after he had taken his life. And she was out of breath running across the street, trying to get there. And like the insults that were coming on the comments on the live feed were just appalling to me. They were making fun of her. They were like telling her she was incompetent. And I'm just thinking like, you try doing this job. But I mean, they were disgustingly hateful to her. And then when she announced that it has been confirmed, he took his life, the comments that came in were so cruel. I mean, people wanted him to be tortured, wanted him to suffer, all these different things. And I had earlier in the news watched how the victim who had been killed, and the video had been shown by this, murderer, the victim's children said, "We forgive you." And I've since then watched them go to the girlfriend or this murderer alleged that he was doing this in the name of her because she'd made him mad. They went to her and they comfort her. And I'm like, if these people can they're obviously grieving and upset, but if they can forgive, if they can have empathy for these other people, what in the world is going on with these other people? They have no skin in the game. They have no connection to these people, but they're wanting to see him suffer. And I've seen these things when Barack Obama was, up for president. I hope he gets assassinated. I've seen the same thing about Trump. And I'm like, why would you want somebody to die? Like, what is that going to do for you? But I just see that people were hurting. And I had to remind my husband last night, I'm like, these kids, I'm not going to attack these kids that were very ugly to this boy or involved in my daughter's drama. But I told Ryan it was this full circle moment that recently we went on our anniversary trip to Hawaii last week, and I opened up and shared, our relationship started definitely not, what's the word, honestly. And we heard a lot of people. I also talked about how we made a lot of changes together through personal development, through, growing together, through lots of ups and downs, but really taking a step back and being self-aware and looking at what we can do to change things. And, our growth game is like, we are nothing like we were in December. We were nothing like we were 2 years ago, let alone 5 years ago. But I shared a story that I'd never shared with anybody about, a lot of the reasons why I'm almost 18 months sober, about, how on our wedding night, I never told anybody. We got in a huge fight over how much, we had drank. And then we almost didn't go on our honeymoon. And that's what I have to live with, is that how the alcohol caused so many problems, and we almost didn't go on our honeymoon. And then as soon as we got to our destination, when we did finally leave for our honeymoon 5 hours late, what did we do? We went to a bar and got completely hammered. And then what did we do? We did some revengeful things to people that we thought were funny because we were still hurting, and these people had hurt us. And so we went out and set out to do that. And I was that person back then that everybody called the angry Asian, and that I was the person who prided myself. I'm like, if you hurt me, I am the most vindictive person ever. I will dig up whatever I have to do to screw you, to make you hurt, to cause pain in your life. And I was proud of that. The man who raised me, he was very vindictive, and he used his words mostly and his hands to get even. But I learned those things, and I had so much anger that was just, I had no outlet for, because I was never allowed to express my emotions. I never really had anybody there that created that safe space. I didn't really have counseling at that point, but I was this angry person. And I'm so glad that I found Beachbody. I am so glad that I was encouraged to do personal development. I'm so glad that I became more self-aware of what was going on. I'm so glad that I've been surrounded by people that made me believe that I could change and that I didn't have to stay in that state. I didn't have to stay suffering. I didn't have to stay angry. I'm so glad that I had people that gave me permission to be myself while I figured out all those nasty parts of my life that I wasn't proud of and I tried to fix. Because I realized that these children are probably products of parents that were like me, that they watch their parents who are bitter, angry, and miserable and take it out on them, take it out on others, and they are angry. And all that they can do is take it out on other kids. And they watch this. And, and I told Ryan, I'm like, I remember when we, split up, all the people that were involved in our drama, when him and I, separated for a couple of months in 2015, these people came out of the woodworks trying to figure out what was going on, wanting to have lunch with me, trying to figure out what was going on, who weren't in my life, and that made rumors, and then judged us when we were trying to work things out and talk behind our backs. I'm like, these kids are doing the same thing, just on a middle school level. And I believe that there's a lesson in everything. And for me, it was this reminder that I am so glad that I changed my life. I'm not better than anybody, but I'm so glad that I can look back and see that the changes that I have made and the influence I've had on my children has greatly impacted them, so that they are not the people contributing to other children to be bullied, to be made fun of, to be rallied against, and to be treated unkindly. Because I was that kid. Nobody knew that. I've shared about it, in the last couple of years, and some of my schoolmates were like, wow, we didn't realize that you were, ridiculed or had such a tough time with the schoolmates. And I didn't have anybody to talk to. And I forgive all of them. We were all kids, and I get now that they were just hurting and, whatever. But I realize now that I could have kept that cycle going. I could have been that kid who was hurt by my parents, who just tortured my children, and they learned to torture other people to take it out on them, and then they cause pain for those kids. And I have taught my kids now that nobody makes you do anything. Somebody may say or do something that makes them sad, angry, whatever, and I help them through it. That you have the right to feel that way, because that means you're alive, you care, but I walk them through that how can you learn from this? How can you not make that situation worse? And what can we do? And my children are always telling me about things that they're seeing at school that they know is wrong, of these girls that are sending nude pictures out to boys, or boys that are sending dick pics out to girls, and then how it's getting circulated. I don't care if it's wrong and these kids send it to somebody. It's even just as wrong that kid was circulated. And legally, you don't want to have those things on your phone at all. But my children are the ones that counsel other kids, and I asked Emily, I'm like, what did you do when this happened? And she was like, she told people that it wasn't their business, that to stop being cruel to him, and that they were fine. And that she said there was a couple of her friends who were like, get out of Emily and his business. It's none of their business. Let them be, deal with it. And so the thing is, they had no issue. And it was nobody else's business, but other people were there just trying to make it worse. And my thing to my kids and to anybody is like, if you can't make it better, that's fine, but certainly don't make it worse. But misery loves company. People like to see people suffering, because if they're suffering, then they don't feel bad about themselves, and people want to know the gossip because they don't want to focus on their life. And so these are things that I went to the mother, because I respect her and I cared about the child, and I wanted to make sure that she knew what was going on so that she could be aware, not so she could get up in her kid's business, and she didn't, but just so she could watch him. Because these are the signs, and I tell my kids that nobody makes you do anything. That every kid in school can bully you, but they don't kill you. And so, but there are other people out there who are in victim mode, who have been raised by people who have been in victim mode. I was one of those people. So if everybody attacks you, it's easy to say it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault. And I'm only 6 episodes deep into 13 Reasons Why. So I really don't know, but I've heard people say it glamorizes suicide, and it's this and this and this. I haven't seen any glamorization of suicide. I've seen the real life stuff of what my kids are already telling me is happening, and I'm having them watch it. Emily and I watched this episode last night because I want them to see the effects. effects. Like, I'm telling them, but I want them to see the effects, and I want them to be, not take on the burden of being everybody's savior, but seeing the signs and maybe being that person. Like Emily had those friends who were told these people, back off. Like, it's not your business. So that she always has an ally. And I want Emily to, and Haley and Rebel and my stepchildren and any kid out there who's watching this and has a parent who maybe is watching this to learn to be mindful of what's going on, to see the signs, to be mindful of their actions so that they don't contribute to that. Or if they see something that's going on, that maybe they could be that one person that needs help. Because God, I would love to have somebody be like, are you hurting? How can I help you? Even if it's just like, I'm dealing with the same thing. Because I've connected with so many kids that I went to school with. They're like, we were dealing with the same thing at the same time. And I'm like, God, I'm glad I have you now. But, you know, what would our life have been like if we had have had that help then? So, you know, I just want all of you parents to be aware of what goes on. I want you to be aware of what could be going on to your kids. Your kids could be that kid that broke up with somebody and all of their classmates are saying, are you wanting to kill yourself? Are you wanting to kill yourself? Oh, are you going to cry? And they're egging him on. Your kid could be one of the kids egging him on. I don't know. All I know is get involved. Ask the right questions. Watch what your kids are doing. Check their phone. Don't look at this and say it's uncomfortable and you do that. I mean, I've seen a lot of people say that, you know, 13 reasons why they don't want to watch because it looks sad and it looks scary and it looks hard. You know what? I applauded my daughter last night. I'm like, you didn't want to call and break up with him and do it the way I said, which was the right way. But you did it anyway. And that took courage. And I am very proud of you that you didn't contribute to his sadness and that you did the right thing, that you did the right thing. Because doing the right thing is not easy most of the time, but it comes with great satisfaction. And then I'm proud of you because life is going to be full of roads where this road, the easy road, is doing the wrong thing, taking the cowardly way, the easy way, the less awkward way, the less, you know, confrontational way. And there's the right way. The right way is always the right way. It's always the right way. It's never the wrong way. It's the right way. Taking this route has ramifications. Taking the right way has ramifications that will blow over. But if you feel firmly convicted in doing the right thing, then you don't have anything to worry about. And I told her, you know, think if you had done it the way you wanted to do it. That you text them on Saturday, leave the country and come back. What would you have come back to with him and your peers? Lord knows what they would have said. And I'm like, and all I know is you're the good guy now. You're not the bad guy, no matter what anybody tries to portray. That you did the right thing. You treated somebody like they had feelings, like they were a human being. You treated him with respect. And I don't believe that she would be responsible for anything, but I do believe if this was their first little dating-ish incident and she broke his heart and treated him like that, it could possibly set in stone in the future of how he views women. So I'm not saying that my daughter is responsible or any person is responsible for how somebody of the opposite sex, you know, treats them. But you think about it. If you get screwed over by a man, if you get screwed over by a woman, hell, if you got screwed over by your mom or dad, that right there influences every relationship you have with that sex. You know, if I had a crappy mom, I'm going to have no respect for women. And I've had to deal with that. There's a reason why I love strip clubs and I loved demeaning women. And I demeaned myself was because I had no respect for women. I had no respect for my mom. My very first person in my life that was a woman that I looked up to, that was my role model, I had zero respect for and still have zero respect for. And I treated every woman like that. That's why I didn't have friends that were girls. That's why I only had friends that were guys. So these things do. You're never responsible. You don't have to live with that guilt on your head. But I will tell you, the way you treat people, they create a blueprint from then forward of how relationships are, how women are, how men are, how love is. And so the thing is, let's help contribute a different change in society of how people view men, women, relationships, their responsibilities, how we view suicide, how we view people's, you know, relationships and all these things. And like I told Emily and I told this boy's mom, and we talked about it, like, you know, there'll be somebody else that breaks up over spring break or, you know, or while Emily's gone. And then summer's going to happen. It's going to be somebody else, you know, like the United thing is, you know, now it was big news last week when we were in Hawaii, and now I don't see anything about it. Now we're on to the Aaron Hernandez. Sorry, I really am not a big news person because it's all just bad news. You know, it'll be something else, you know, and next week it'll be something else. But all I can say is that understand what suicide is. If it makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry, but it is real life. And talk to your kids, see what's going on. Watch the 13 Reasons Why. I mean, people binge watch stupider shows that have no education involved in it. It doesn't make you smarter. It doesn't make you better. But this will, if you could see what's going on in the school, to talk to your kids about it, to see the signs that, you know, your kid may be great in school. Everybody may love them. But you know what? In a blink of an eye, you can say something, and then out come the pitchforks, and out come these people that just get off to being mean to people. And so you may think your kid's doing fine in school now, but in a blink of an eye, things can happen. And this happened when I was in school. I remember a kid that had to transfer to another school because of a rumor and that went around. I don't even think it's true, but she was terrorized. I remember the kid that took his life our senior year. I mean, I remember these things, and it's real. It was real then, and it's real now, and I believe it's nastier now. Not because the kids are bad or worse. I mean, people still have the same tendencies. Yeah, there may be generations and generations of stacked up anger, but I truly believe the problem now is social media. And you see it from the parents. I mean, Jesus Christ, we see the president out there sending out ugly tweets all the time. And, you know, and that's the message. Everything is spread on social media. Before, if you want to spread a rumor, you had to call somebody. You know, I mean, when I you know, as a kid, there wasn't even call waiting at our house. And then you have to get to school. And then the summer would, you know, begin and new stuff would happen the next year. Now it travels fast, and it can be screenshot and retweeted and sent out in a text just like that. And people are vicious and people are cruel, and change that. Teach your children to be kind. But you have to be kind, and you have to know that not every person out there is bad. I used to think that people were bad, and I didn't like people. They're not all bad. But when I worked on myself, I realized who I deserve, and I surround myself with good people. And when I see people who I feel are not ready to grow, that they're not ready to be nice, then I bless and release. You know, I've had friends in the past where I've watched them take a situation and just milk it to death, like they were, like my therapist called them silent agents of chaos, that they just saw a hole and they just made it bigger and bigger and bigger and dug and poked extra holes. And there's people in your life that are like that. They're not trying to help you to find a solution. They're not wanting to see you get better. And when you do get better, they'll turn on you. They'll leave. They'll throw shit in your way to make you stumble. They'll you know, hate you. They'll second guess you so that you second guess yourself. Get rid of those people. And stop telling your children to do things based on the way you would have done them, so that hopefully they'll have a better life. Start doing now what you wish you had done in the past. Start being the parent now you wished your parents were, and change the future now. I'm 36 years old, and I'm constantly changing things for my children. Even though my oldest child is almost 18, never give up. Never give up on your quest for growth, for contribution, or for having your children have an amazing life, because the world is ugly out there, but we have the ability to change things around and to make the next generation a good generation. So I leave you with that. This was long, but I think it was super important, and I hope that this message gets shared with your children, with your family, with your friends that have children, because this is important. And if you haven't watched the Netflix episodes of 13 Reasons Why, definitely do it. Share it with your children. Have a conversation. Talk to your spouse. You know, Ryan and I've had lots of conversations about these things so that we both know what's going on, so that our parenting is in sync when it comes to these things. And I believe in communication with the other parent. And I look at these things that, you know, this was a great lesson. You know, I realized that my daughter she realized on her own, she's too young to date, and that her peers are not at the maturity level to handle her dating. So she's no longer dating, and we will just take this as time goes and see how it works. And, you know, I don't have a set date or age, and I think that wouldn't be the right thing to do, because it's hard to give people deadlines and have them live on our timetable and up to our expectations. But I just believe in being involved and open and a good listener, so that my kids know that they can talk to me at any time and that I provide them with good advice, and I applaud them for heeding it, instead of, trying to destroy them when they don't do the right thing. Like I was raised in a family based on shame and guilt, and I don't want to do that. I want it to be on realness, honesty, and praise. So I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that your kids are doing great in school and that they are a buddy to the people out there who need it, because Lord knows there's a lot of kids like me that are out there struggling silently.